to the GavGoesIn podcast. So, obviously, Man United playing Chelsea tomorrow. And as you guys can see in the thumbnail, Ruben Amorim versus Enzo Maresca. You know, who needs to win more? Big up to Trent. Trent is under Arnold, you know. But guys, listen, before we get into that, you know, and little cold coming on. But guys, before we get into that, what I want to talk about, you know, and, you know, big up to Rants and Bants as well. Because I watched the stream before, obviously, I came live now. And to be honest with you, you know, this is something that I actually forgot about, you know. And this goes out to all the fans out there that feel that Ruben Amorim hasn't got his players. Big up to Sham. So this goes out to all the fans out there that think, you know, Amorim hasn't got his players, you know, he deserves time, etc. Now, as I said, big up to Rants and Bants. And you know, I watched Man United's squad that they could have had before this manager decided to let certain players out, you know, and obviously a certain Jadon Sancho as well. You know, whether the deal was agreed for him to go to Chelsea before Amorim came in, I'm not too sure. But I'm pretty sure Amorim could have, you know, got Sancho to stay, etc. You know? So let's just go through the squad that United could have had. And then it's going to dispel this myth that Amorim hasn't got his own players. And again, a lot of people think that this squad isn't good enough as well. Which, again, you know, I think if Man United do want to progress further, there are certain players from this squad that do need to be moved on. I hear that. But let's just go through this squad and we're going to see if this is a squad, you know, that is worthy of top 4, top 6, you know. Because, again, this is something that I actually forgot about, you know. So, again, if we start from the keepers, and I'm talking about the players that Amorim has let go and what he's brought in, you know. So if we go to goalkeeper, okay, 2 goalkeepers, Andre Onana and Altay Bayinde, you know, we would say 2 goalkeepers that possibly could be improved on, you know, but I think big up to Jamie. But what I would say, are they 2 keepers that are capable of, well, if we look at Onana, should I say, because obviously he's the number 1, is Onana capable of getting United into a top 6, top 4? You know, as much as he's got his detractors, I would say he is capable of that. So we've got Andre Onana there. Then if we look at right back, big up the XR. If we look at right back, so you've got Diogo Dalot and you've got Nusayr Mazraoui. So Mazraoui first choice for me, Diogo Dalot backing him up. And guys, this is based in a 4 at the back, you know, with the players that Amorim has at his disposal, you know. Guys, yeah, if you're coming through, man, make sure you subscribe and make sure you smash that like button. So if you're just joining now, okay, I'm just talking about Man United's squad that they could have had with Ruben Amorim in charge, because I want to dispel this myth like that the team ain't good enough and the squad ain't good enough. And I'm going to base it on, as I said, playing a preferred formation of 4-2-3-1 or 3-4-3-3. And as I said, big up to Rants and Bants, because you know, I actually didn't realize this, but this is something that, you know, a lot of fans need to be aware of, Man United fans, to dispel this myth that Ruben Amorim needs his own players, okay? So, as I said, right back, Mazraoui and Diogo Dalot. Fine, that's fine there. So, is Mazraoui capable of getting United into a top 6, top 4 race? 100%. You know, Dalot obviously being the backup, and of course, you've got Lenny Yoro that can play right back as well. So we move on to left backs. So you've got Patrick Dorgu is a left back, you know. He chose to get rid of Tyrell Malacia, who's a left back. And again, if you're saying Malacia is not a first choice starting left back, again, to have someone like that as cover, you know, I believe he's good enough to play left back as a starter, but you still got him there anyway. And then you've got obviously Luke Shaw, which is injury prone. But we can say there's 3 left backs there in Malacia, Dorgu, and Luke Shaw. And would I say all three of them players are capable of getting United into a top 6 race? 100% they are. Okay, so all the players we've gone through so far, you would definitely say they are top 6 players that can help United get there. Then we move on to centre-back. So you've got Matthias de Ligt, Lenny Yoro. There's no question that those two are top 6 players, top 4 players. So that's automatic. Then you've got players backing him up. Harry Maguire as cover, not too afraid to put him in as cover. So you would say 100% Harry Maguire, you know, as a backup. Then you've got obviously Lissandro, who's injured, as a backup. Yeah, that's fine. Then you've got the likes of Victor Lindelof, again, who will be living in the summer, but as a backup, that's fine. Then you've got Aiden Heaven, who's come in as a youngster, you know, obviously still inexperienced, but the potential of Aiden Heaven, you would say, you know, he can be figuring in the squad, and then as he gets more experience, you know, who's to say that he won't be starting games? So again, I've gone through the whole defense, guys, and we would say that the whole of this defense is capable of getting United into a top 6, top 4 race, in my opinion, yeah? And again, big up Ransom Bants again, because I didn't actually realise this, but it's given me food for thought now to think, yeah, this whole lie is about him not having his players when he had players at his disposal. Again, is a lie. So if we go into 2 in midfield, you know, Ugarte, for me, I don't rate Ugarte highly, but as a defensive player in this team, is he capable of playing his part in getting United into a top 6, top 4 race? Yes. Casemiro, 100%. You know, if the team hasn't got too many gaps in that midfield from midfield to defence, then Casemiro is, for me, still one of the best players in the league, easily, you know. So that's a no-brainer with Casemiro. Then we move on to the 10s. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who can play in the 10. You've got Mason Mount, you know, and Christian Eriksen as well, I'd put in there. So you've got 3 players there that in a 4 at the back, with that squad, you know, are capable of getting United into a top 6, top 4 race. Then we move out wide, guys. And again, this is crucial, because the wide players that this manager chose to let go, you know, as I said, is criminal, because there's no excuse as to why he done this. And to think that Man United now have an attack of, you know, Ahmad, who obviously was out injured, but you've got Garnacho, Bruno has to play there, Rasmus Højlund, obviously Xerxes is out injured, and a young Cheeto who don't get any game time, you know. To think that Man United are left with that in comparison to what he had. And again, I don't want to hear nothing about Ineos didn't get him players to replace these players. At the end of the day, Amorim was fully aware that he wasn't going to get players to replace these players. So I'm sorry, if you know that, you don't let these players go, because you're going to weaken the squad and you've only got yourself to blame. So if we look at the right-hand side of the attack, you know, you've got options of Ahmad, Anthony, and Sancho who could play there. Yeah? So you've got 3 players there that 100% could contribute to getting United in the top 6, top 4. You know? Then we go to the other side on the left. You've got Sancho who can play there, Marcus Rashford, and then they've got Garnacho who has been playing there. And although I don't think Garnacho is good enough, you know, he's still an option there. But definitely in Rashford and in Sancho, you would say... Sorry, guys, bear me 1 minute. But yeah, definitely in Rashford and Sancho, you would say on that left-hand side, there's players there capable of getting United into a top 6, top 4 race, you know. Then you go to strikers. Again, Joshua Xerxes first choice. And then, again, as much as I don't rate Rasmus Højlund, he's another option. And then you've got Cheeto, you know. And you probably say between Cheeto and Rasmus, either one of them can be third choice, you know. But Xerxes being the main striker. So, again, guys, this is the squad that he potentially could have had, you know, and playing to what suits the players best in terms of, you know, I know you want to come in playing your 3 at the back, but the 3 at the back ain't working. So in life, if things are not working, simple as you change them. You don't just keep doing the same thing, you know. Um, Doing the same thing is going to produce no results. So my thing is, if he knew this threat at the back wasn't going to work, you know, and if he knew he wasn't going to get players in, why did he think that continuing with the same thing, you know, getting rid of certain players, why does he think that was ever the idea, you know? And as I said, I've just gone through the whole squad that United potentially could have had with the players he's let go, you know, and what they have at their disposal. There is no way that this team should be 16th place. And again, could drop further to 17th, you know. And again, even more so now, there is no argument for this manager. And I've said for a while now, I couldn't care less if he wins Europa League, you know. Ineos have to sack him just based on that. These are the facts. Big up Reluctant Gamer. Because the fact that he's come in and, you know, he's had those players at his disposal, you know, but he's chosen to let certain players go to leave a front line of what's being left there now. That's sackable in itself for me, you know. And as I said, how he turns this around, he can't turn it around for me, you know. He just needs to do what's right and either, which is unlikely, is walk, or Ineos just need to just grow some just grow some balls really, and sack him regardless, because that's unacceptable to have that potential squad, you know, and then let certain players go. And again, yes, you have added Dorgu. If you look at what Ineos have added in the summer as well in terms of Joshua Zirkzee, Ugarte, who I don't rate, Lenny Yoro, Patrick Dorgu. So Dorgu, Zirkzee, Ugarte, Delict, Mazraoui. So all these players have come in. And as I said, the fact that he has chosen, you know, to go with what he's doing now and not adapt, again, there's no hiding place. And he has his own self to blame for me, you know. So yeah, guys, I wanted to just pick that out because I forgot the squad United potentially could have had, you know, and the fact that he's hell-bent on playing this system, the three at the back, you know, and he's got rid of certain players, you know, he's only got himself to blame here. So I don't take no satisfaction, no dissatisfaction at saying, you know, this is all on the manager, you know. I don't want to hear people blaming Ineos because in terms of what's being produced on the pitch, you know, you can't blame Ineos. Ineos didn't tell him to get rid of Rashford, Anthony, Sancho, and Malacia, because there would have been 4 players that would have been very helpful to the squad, you know. But you chose to get rid of them, knowing no one else was coming in, and this is what you get with the squad that's left: a team that's in 16th place, a team that somehow got themselves to a Europa League final. But again, I don't think that's the manager's doing. That's the players, and as I said, I think they have to sack him regardless, you know. For me, who's the game bigger for? You know, for various reasons. If we start off on Enzo Maresca. For me, Maresca needs to win this game. And I believe he's going to go strong as well. And the fact that Chelsea are at home with that crowd as well, I think personally, if Maresca gets nothing more than a win, I'd go as far as saying I don't know if he stays there next season, because I don't believe that him winning Conference League will be enough to keep his job. Because let's face it, that loss against Newcastle is leaving their Champions League hopes in the balance, because they need to beat United more or less to secure that, I would say. Because they're on what, 63, 60, is it 60 points they're on? Newcastle are on 63. Or I think it's 63, yeah. I think they're on 60 points, Newcastle are on 63. So Chelsea would definitely need to win this game. And then, of course, they've got Nottingham Forest last game of the season, you know. So for me, Maresca definitely needs this win. And I believe anything less than a win, you know, if Chelsea are serious, and if Chelsea are an elite club in the way they've been acting, they get rid of him, because I think that would be unacceptable for the amount of money that's been spent. and to not at least get your team into the Champions League, you know, I don't see how they keep him. And again, for the Conference League, that should be a bare minimum with the teams that they've been playing. And I think their toughest game is going to be against Real Betis, purely because Real Betis have quality in likes of Isco and Anthony, you know. But you still think Chelsea should definitely win that game with no problem, you know, with the amount of money that's been spent. So, yeah, guys, that's what I'm saying. Maresca, for me, you know, I would say it's a bigger game in the sense of, you know, Champions League places, and United obviously have another game that is obviously going to take more precedence for many people. But for me, big up Xedra. But for me, Ruben Amorim, I think people saying that this game doesn't matter because they got the Europa League coming up. Again, guys, I want people to really think about that, because if he loses this game, you know, and again, his team selection for me is going to be key, because you would assume he's going to play the majority of the players that are going to play in the Europa League final to give them match rhythm, because I think the worst that they would want is, you know, those players that are going to be playing going into the final and they haven't really had any game time. Guys, I will get back to your comments. I'm just going to just say what I've got to say first, but big up yourselves. And what I would say is that if he was to lose this game with the majority of the team that's going to play against Europa League next Wednesday, then you got to think about the confidence of the players going into that final, you know. And again, you've got players like Casemiro, who's experienced, a pure winner. You know, you got players like De Ligt, who's won as well. So these guys there, you know, their mentality will be the same going into any game. But you have to think of the squad as a whole, because if they lose this game against Chelsea and they lose heavily, then going into that final against Tottenham, confidence is bound to be low. And again, you don't want to risk getting any other injuries, because obviously there's talk about Lenny Yoro, Matthias De Ligt, Dalot as well, not possibly making that final, you know. And I think personally, I can't see that happening anyway, because they would need to be at least be involved somewhere or another in tomorrow's game. And whether that happens, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, or if he changes the team to rest certain players, you know, again, Chelsea will fancy their chances to completely dominate that game and win. So, for me, for both reasons, I think both managers, you know, it's a game for me that both managers can't afford to lose, you know. I think if Chelsea get a draw, it's not good enough for Maresca. If United get a draw, you'd probably say, you know, fair enough, because they've got the Europa League. Because I think if Europa League wasn't there and he lost another game, you know, again, it'll be embarrassing. But I think if United was to get a draw against Chelsea, you know, they'll probably just move on and say, look, we've got the Europa League. You know, even though I think personally, and you got to think of the match-going fans as well, losing another game is unacceptable for those travelling fans paying their money. So I think personally, it's a must not lose game for both teams. And I just worry what team Amorim's going to pick, because whatever team he picks, if it's the strong team and they get beat, confidence will be low going into the final. If it's a weak team and they get beat convincingly, the pressure's going to mount on him again, you know. And then again, on the other side, you've got Maresca. He has to win no matter what. No draw, no loss, just a complete win. So yeah, yeah, it's unacceptable, man, for both teams to contemplate a loss in this game, you know. So yeah, I think tomorrow's game is gonna be crucial, man. It's gonna be crucial, and we will be here for that. You know, guys, I will be doing a match reaction to that game tomorrow at 10 o'clock as well, which is scheduled already. But yeah, as I said, I think crucial game for both managers. And guys, what I want to touch on as well, guys, yeah, is again we've heard news that that Ruben Amorim has paid for 30 of the staff for the cup final tickets. Guys, let me tell you this now, yeah? This is nothing short of a PR move. Because if even Ruben Amorim paying for his staff to get the tickets, that's something you just keep quiet to yourself. You know, the guy's on a lot of money, you know. And if you're doing a goodwill gesture, it's not about letting everyone know to try and make everyone feel sorry for you or say that, you know, Ruben Amorim's the guy. So anyone buying this crap that, you know, look at what Amorim's done in buying 30 tickets for his staff. Guys, it's nothing short of a PR move. You know, nothing short of a PR move. And again, if you want to do a goodwill gesture, you keep that to yourself. You don't need to let everyone else know, you know. So how that got out in the first place is laughable, you know. And I, for one, I'm not buying that rubbish, you know. And also as well, his recent comments about, you know, he's not going to quit off. I can't remember the actual... If anyone's got the comments about what Amorim said in his latest press conference, you know, I can't remember what was said word for word. But again, what else do you expect Amorim to say? Like, he's gonna say that. You know what I mean? Because he ain't going to start saying that he's going to be leaving and stuff like that, because that wouldn't make any sense on his part, you know? So, again, if anyone's got the quotes, make sure you throw them in. But the last couple of things that he's been coming out with in his press conferences, you know, PR stunt and something that he's obviously going to say. So, I don't want people to be getting, you know, confused or, you know, running away with Amorim on this, because... like, the fact that he's had to broadcast that he's paying for the tickets, or whoever broadcasted it, you're not fooling real fans, because people can just see straight through that, you know. And for me, you know, the fact that that's come out, you know, again, is something that should just be kept to yourself, you know, and not broadcasted for me. But as I said, man, yeah, we got there's two massive games for Amorim for me. Tomorrow's game, and then obviously the Europa League final. And as I said, you know, I'm just there for, you know, if anything, trying to get another trophy over the line. You know, so if United get another trophy, which again, this massive club in terms of what they've spent, you know, if you look over the last 10 years, United have won trophies. So I'm just here for United to get another trophy on Wednesday. But in terms of the manager, yeah, as I said, he can't stay. He can't stay. It's impossible for him to stay. Based on what I said to start with the squad that he should have had, and he's decided to let certain players go, where United are actually performing in the league right now, and the fact that the football's been shit for the whole time, for the whole season. You know, he's got, what, 6 wins in the league, and I believe, what, 12 losses or something like that? You know, 39 points. Like, that's unforgivable. And again, yeah, he has to go. But I'm just going to get into some of the comments, guys. Big up yourselves. Guys, only 6 likes. Come on, let's make sure we smash that like button. It's just one press of the button. And if you are enjoying the content, again, make sure you subscribe to my channel and check out all the other contents as well. So DXR has said, bro, I wanted to ask, are Amorim's PR potentially putting bots in comment sections regarding time and having his players? Bro, to be honest with you, that's not a bad shout, because the amount of crap that I've heard in regards to this manager, the protection that he's getting, you would think that that's happening. Like, there's either bots or there's fans that are doing this on purpose, because I've never known a manager to be doing this badly and getting so much excuses made for him, you know? And again, there's no accountability for this manager. It's like this manager's failing, you know, on every metric that you wanna go with. He's failing, you know. And again, I wouldn't mind if Amorim came in with his style, and the style was working. You know, they were getting good results. I wouldn't mind so much. But the fact that it's gone totally the other way, you know, I don't really understand why a lot of these fans are just choosing to just ignore the obvious, you know. And again, no Europa League win in the final is going to convince me that this man just should be in his post still. No way. So yeah, in terms of the bots, yeah, probably, but we'll have to wait and see, because I can't believe that any normal fan would think that it's acceptable what Amorim's doing. And then to start using, he hasn't got his players, you know, the same players that a lot of these fans criticize. But then these are the same players that have got you to the final because Amorim hasn't, you know. So, yeah, it's madness. In his latest interview, bro, I am seeing comments like saying, give him more time. The squad is crap, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, listen, what you have to realize as well, again, is there's certain channels out there that have a massive reach. And again, these are the guys that are spreading this give Amorim time nonsense because, again, a lot of people can't think for themselves and they just go with what the majority are saying, you know. And again, a lot of these big channels are convincing a lot of fans, really, that are, you know, that, as I said, can't think for themselves to go with this opinion. And the problem is, if you actually think that Amorim needs more time or giving his own players, then as I said, like, I'm sorry, man, I'm not for that, you know, because, you know, I've mentioned this so many times, you know, you have to earn the right to get time, you know, and he hasn't done that. As I said, if he came in and was, you know, at United respectable in the league, you know, playing good football, then that conversation, I can hear it. But no way on what's been delivered this season, you know. So, yeah, I'll just say, listen, just be aware of certain channels that are trying to force this give him time crap, which, again, doesn't make any sense to me, you know. Let's go through, let's see. DXR, there you go. He shipped out all the threatening options. So, again, I've mentioned, if you look at fullback, you know, a lot of fans don't really rate Malassia, but Malassia as an option at left back or as an option at left wing back with Patrick Dorgu would have been ideal. You know, you could have put Dorgu on the right if you wanted to as a right wing back and play Malassia. There were so many different options that he could do, but he chose to let Malassia go. So again, that falls on him. And then now when we're saying that Luke Shaw doesn't look fit because he's been out for the majority of his time here, there's no excuse there because you had other players there that you could have played, that you chose to let go. So the fact that that Malassia was let go, again, that's a red flag for the manager, you know. Again, you know, I've wanted Rashford out for years. Rashford should have been gone time ago. You know, the fact that this fan base, you know, and the club, and I've been saying this before I had a platform. This club was hell-bent on making Rashford the head of Martial. And this is where, you know, the problem started for me. Because Rashford, when he first came through, was a breath of fresh air. But these fans were hell-bent. And with the help of, you'd probably say, Mourinho as well, and definitely Solskjaer, they were trying to put Rashford ahead of Martial. And if anyone with a functioning brain just knows that Martial, as a footballer, was clear of Rashford, you know. But to think that he let Rashford go, you know, and keep Garnacho and Højlund there, again, I'm not Rashford's biggest fan, but again, that is a sackable offence, you know, because even though Rashford, you know, wasn't the player that many thought he was, you know, he's better than both Højlund and Garnacho, but yet this manager decided to let him go based on him not trying in training. Like, he's the only player that hasn't tried in training. You know what I mean? So again, that's another black mark. That's another red mark against the manager. You know, Anthony. Again, we've mentioned Anthony. Anthony in this system can play as a right wing back. His combination with Ahmad would have been frightening. You know, this manager didn't want to play him. Let him go to Betis, and look what he's doing at Betis. You know, being given a confidence and he's producing. You know, and many fans will say to you, but he wasn't producing at Man United. But yeah, but tell me a player that is. There's fundamentally problems at this club, you know. The only player that these fans will tell you that is producing is Bruno Fernandes. But you have to ask yourself why that is. Because, as I've mentioned, Bruno's the captain. He's the penalty taker. He's the free kick taker. He's the corner taker. He's allowed to go and play wherever he wants, you know. He has the freedom of Old Trafford. So you look at all these things, he can do whatever he wants. He's a free spirit in the team. And for some reason, managers Ten Hag and Amorim have give him that license to the detriment of others. So, again, just looking at that, you know, there's a reason why a lot of these players are not doing well. And there's a reason why a certain Bruno Fernandes, you know, is shining. as what people would say. I don't personally think he's shining. I just think that numbers are masking his performances, and people only care about that. But there's a reason why he's getting these numbers, and then, unless you want to deeply look into this, you're not going to. All you're going to see is Bruno Fernandes praise, but not looking at the bigger picture. So United's squad is decent. Shocking how they're hovering above the relegation zone. So Sham, as I said, if anyone's seen the start of my stream, you would see the players that Amorim could have had at his disposal. And again, I mentioned it earlier today. Big up to Rants and Bants, because I didn't actually realize this, but having watched his stream earlier today, I forgot the amount of players United had at Amorim's disposal. So there's no way that I'm looking at this Man United team with the options they had and the variety of positions that these players could have played, playing a 4 at the back, that this team couldn't have got into the top 6, the top 4. There's no excuse. So yeah, there's no way they should be above relegation. And this is why I'm saying to you, this is why this manager's failed. He's not doing a good job, regardless of what anyone says. So DXR says, damn, that's like a country getting rid of their missiles. Yeah, exactly. You get rid of about 4, like he's got rid of, let's be honest, 4 players that were arguably starters. Because Sancho for me would start. Malacia has an argument to start. The same with Rashford, and same with Anthony. All 4 of them could have, 4 of them really, in this formation right now, in this system, would be starters. There's no doubt in that. Oh, and sorry, I forgot about Kobe Minu. Look at that. I actually forgot Kobe Minu as well, another player that's been misprofiled by this manager. But in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, Kobe could play in the 10. He could play in the central midfield alongside Casemiro. But in this system, he has to play as a 10 for me. So another player that I completely forgot. So yeah. Sorry, just going back to so Newcastle on 66, Arsenal. Yeah, exactly. So Chelsea need to win this game, and if Chelsea win their next game, you would say that they're in the Champions League. So they'll be going all out with a strong team. And again, Newcastle got Arsenal, and if Newcastle beat Arsenal, they find themselves in second place. Meltdown for Arsenal. And City are on 65. So City got Bournemouth at home, and if City beat Bournemouth, it makes that Newcastle-Arsenal game interesting, because City could, in theory, be on joint points with Arsenal if Newcastle was to beat them, and if if there was, or even if Arsenal beat Newcastle, then City would leapfrog Newcastle. So listen, these next few games are going to be interesting. So this is where the excitement is going to go in terms of these Champions League places. So yeah, we'll have to wait, see what happens. So Sham says Chelsea need the win. Villa also have 63 points, so could get the last Champions League spot if Chelsea slip up. I agree. I think Villa's next game is actually Tottenham at home. So it's mad how you got United and Tottenham, who are both 16th and 17th, and they're playing the 2 teams that are looking for Champions League spots, and 2 teams that are at home and would need the win. And then United and Tottenham play each other in the Europa League, that whoever wins that could get them into the Champions League. So it's actually mad how that's actually worked out. But again, yeah, it's gonna be exciting, guys. If you're in there, guys, come on, make sure we smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Big up yourselves. Yeah, Chelsea got Forest last game, and I can't remember who Forest have got in the next game, but I think it's safe to say that Forest have it all to do, because they would need to beat Chelsea last game, and I can't remember who they got before the Chelsea game, but they'll need to win both games to have a realistic chance of getting in Champions League. But I think the fact that they drew to Leicester, I think you'd probably say that's their chances probably slipping away, I would say. But who knows? Mad things have happened. Oh shit. Yeah, that's my banner behind me, guys. Yeah, I've had that banner for a little while now. Big up yourselves. So Sham says, I think Villa got Spurs on Friday. They'll get the win for sure. if Spurs play a weakened squad to save them for the final. Yeah, I'll be honest. Tottenham are going to rest their first team against Aston Villa. There's no way they're going to play their strongest team against Villa with the Europa League around the corner. So, and again, it's for Tottenham, the Europa League is bigger for them than the league because, again, they have not won a trophy in, I can't remember how many years, but they're going to want to go all out for this Europa League. So, for sure, you'll see them rest their team. I think, if I'm honest with you, I think their team, because there's no Kulusevski, who's out injured. Maddison's out injured. So they're two creative 10s, you would say, will be nowhere to be seen, which is mad. But that might make them a bit more dangerous, especially on the counter, I think, as well, because without no number 10, they're probably going to play a three in midfield that have energy and legs, and then rely on the front three, which shouldn't be Son, Solanke, and probably Brennan Johnson, to use their pace to exploit United in the wide areas, you would say. So that's where I can see the game being won for them. But it might make their midfield a bit more sturdier. I think their midfield against United, you're probably looking at Basuma, Bentancur, and probably Bergvall or Papa Sarr. Oh no, is Bergvall out for the season? I think Bergvall's out for the season, so it could be Papa Sarr, Basuma, and Bentancur in there. But yeah, they'll be resting their team for the Villa game. So, I think Villa definitely be the favourites, I would say. So big up Exedra. He says, Gav, even if he plays a strong team, he's going to lose. Don't trust his manager or some of these players. Yeah, what I would say is, in terms of if he plays a strong team, I think if he plays his first team that's going to play in the Europa League final, I do agree with you. I think Chelsea win the game anyway, regardless of what team he plays. I'm just saying more along the lines of, if he plays his strong team and they get beat, imagine the confidence for those players going into the final. I think that's going to be massive, because those players are not going to want to be on a hiding of a result and then be confident going into that final, no matter what anyone says, So, and even if he does change the team, you still expect Chelsea to win, even without Nicholas Jackson, who's obviously one of their main goal getters at the moment. So for me, yeah, I think the best United can do is get a draw, personally, and so yeah, but it depends what team he plays, because if he plays a strong team, I think it's a bit of a risk. But then again, these players would need match rhythm before they're going into the final. So we'll have to wait. That's what it was. But yeah, big up Sham. So the latest from Amorim in his press conference is that he's far from quitting, which again, I don't really understand why this has come out. Because I mean, what else is he going to say? He's not going to come in there and say, "Yep, I'm looking to leave the club. I'm looking to quit the club. I don't think like the job's too big for me." He ain't going to say that, is he? So yeah, these things that he's coming out with are just obvious. So so yeah, he says that I have a clear idea. I understand the problems and I'm far from quitting. What I'm saying is, since I arrived here, I talk about standards. I cannot see the team having these results in the future, I think it was, in the Premier League, sorry, and say nothing and not take responsibility. Well, yeah, exactly. But he's saying everything that everyone knows anyway, So for those fans that think, he's absolved of any blame, like he's more or less telling you that, it is down to him, And as I said, these things he's coming out with, are not fooling me. At the end of the day, he's caused a lot of these problems for himself. So, as I said, I think, he ain't really got nowhere to go for me, And again, I'll be looking at Ineos to see what they're going to do, because if Ineos somehow think that this manager deserves time, then, yeah, I don't know what to say. I think that would be me saying to myself, yeah, this Ineos are not serious. I don't really know where they're going, But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they do, man. As we keep saying, but yeah, exactly. He's talking the talk, but not walking the walk. Yeah, again, like there's a reason why Ronaldo called him a poet, because he's very good at convincing people that he's got it all together, But then away from the press conferences, his team selection. I think that's the main thing for me is the team selection, the stubbornness, and his profiling of players. That's the main thing for me. Once I see the kind of players that he likes to play and where he was playing certain players, that's where I thought, yeah, this manager's not the manager that I thought he was. But yeah, as I said, he's got 2 games left because the Aston Villa game for me will be irrelevant because if they don't win that Europa League, Ineos have a decision to make, regardless of this, and the last game for me is irrelevant, really. I think you just give it to Aston Villa. So it didn't take Conte time, didn't take Ancelotti time, didn't take Hansi Flick time. There you go. There you go. I'm glad you said that because this is exactly what I've been saying. And there's been many more managers as well. So, again, but again, people are going to come in and say, look at the players they've got at their disposal and stuff like that, which, again, is just excuses for the manager. And the day, as you just said, Zedra, these managers have just come into their club. They've put their philosophy forward. A lot of them are like Barcelona. They have a certain philosophy, So, but Hansi Flick has come in, and again they have got players at his disposal that are top players, but these players have just come. These managers have just come in, and they've either won the league, cups, and produced a style of play that we can all say, we're happy with that, And these guys not come in saying we haven't got our own players. They just got the job done. And again, going back to Ruben Amorim, he fully well knew what he was walking into, And again, if he rated himself as a manager when Man United told him to come in now, if he was this really top coach, he would have believed in himself and said, I'm going to stay put because of Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, a top team, Man City, will be in for me in the near future, if he really rated himself. The fact that he came to United, knowing the shit show that this club is in, he can only blame himself, really, let's be honest, because, as I said, if he really rated himself, he would have just waited. But he came in, and I think what's happened to Amorim is that he actually thought he was better than what he really was, than what he really is, because he's came in and thought the job wasn't going to be this difficult. Because that's the only excuse, that's the only reasoning I can see. And he's quickly found out that, yeah, he's not as good as he thought he was, let's be honest. Because I've never seen Man United this low in the table unless the season starts when everyone's on 0. So, yeah, and he's taking United that far. As bad as Ten Hag was, like, who would have thought that Ten Hag has done a better job than Amorim? I was never saying that when Amorim took over. So, yeah. Exactly, Zedra. They need their own players. That crap just needs to stop now. You know what I mean? You earn the time to get your own players. Again, did it take Xabi Alonso? For a prime example. And again, I've seen clips of Bayer Leverkusen's training, and Xabi Alonso, is involved in how Bayer Leverkusen style of play is. He's fully involved in it. So you can see the coaching that that Xabi Alonso does, And again, he broke, as you said, Bayern's 11-year title streak to win the title for Bayer Leverkusen last season. Obviously, he's going to Real Madrid now, but you can clearly say that Xabi Alonso coached these players, which is why he's got the move to Real Madrid, and he didn't get his own players, I'm just sick and tired of all these excuses. All these excuses are just excuses to not put it on the manager, and the manager is fully the problem here. Big up to Mihailo Milantovic. Is that Serbian? My dead nan would bag more goals than Hoyland. Listen, I think there's worse things that would bag more goals than Hoyland, put it that way. I think, as I said, I'm not going to go too much on Hoyland because this is a player that shouldn't be at the club anyway. You know, as a Man United striker, which, again, people are going to tell you United don't create chances, which I am fully aware of. But I'm sorry, this guy was bought for 72 million and his return is, for this season, is what, 3 or 4 league goals. I don't want to hear nothing more, you know, because there's too many people saying that, you know, Hoyland doesn't get any supply, and then when he does, he still misses. At the end of the day, this guy is just nowhere near the level. And as I said, many a times I've said already, he needs to be moved on. You know, yeah, Slot won in his first league as well. Yeah, first season. Okay, yeah, Forest have got West Ham then. Yeah. Yeah, it will do. Yeah, as I said, Chelsea, yeah. Chelsea, it will come down to their last game of the season. But again, for me, Chelsea need to win this game against United because, you know, if they somehow don't win this game, you know, that Nottingham Forest game might not mean much because I think Aston Villa would have, I think if Aston Villa win, they're on 63 points as well. So, yeah, depending on what they do against United, you know, it could be out of their hands. So this is why this game against United is nothing short of a win for Chelsea, you know, and I think they will get the win, if I'm honest. Gamer says Xabi Alonso or Luka Modric. Again, 2 great players, and I think Xabi Alonso for me is very underrated, you know, as a player. I think many people, Liverpool fans, would probably tell you, you know, Steven Gerrard in that era there was their key player. For me, Xabi Alonso was arguably as influential in a different way. And if you look at the Spain midfield that he had to compete with, I mean, some of the best players, midfielders that you'll see in the game, he was competing with the likes of Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, I mean, Thiago Alcantara, who wasn't getting regular game time because of that free, Cesc Fabregas, Santi Cazorla. I mean, to have midfield quality of those players, Marcos Senna as well. If anyone remembers Marcos Senna from Villarreal, I mean, some of the quality that Spain midfield had, that Xabi Alonso had to compete with, like, it's just ridiculous. I think Illaramendi, if anyone remembers him at Real Sociedad, went to Real Madrid as well. Forgot his first name. He was part of that midfield as well. And again, and there's probably a few others I've forgotten, but that midfield for Spain was just full of quality. And Xabi Alonso, more than once held down his own in that midfield. But to get into that midfield starting was almost impossible with them names that I've mentioned. But if we're asking Xabi Alonso or Luka Modric, again, there's no disgrace in saying Luka Modric because Xabi Alonso is a top player. But for me, Luka Modric is arguably one of the greatest midfielders that the game's produced, you know, in terms of what he's won, in terms of his quality, you know. But, yeah, 2 great players, man. So Beezus B says, I've never heard a British accent on a black man. Well, now you have. Big up yourself, man. Yeah, big up yourself. Zedra says, football in those days was different, Gav. Quality everywhere. A player like, listen, Matt Le Tissier. You know what, yeah? If anyone saw Matt Le Tissier in the at Southampton, you know, when it was called what was it called? Was it the Barclays Premier League, or I can't remember what it was called. But Matt Le Tissier, and you know what makes me laugh, yeah? You know what makes me laugh? Matt Le Tissier, if he was playing in this era of football now, would be criticised 100% because Matt Le Tissier didn't run, you know. I'd guarantee you now in training, he didn't try in training as well. He'd probably even tell you that, you know. But this guy was an absolute pure footballer. Like, and and again, the English Premier League back then had players that were playing for, you would say, the lower level teams that had, some of the best players in the league. You look at Bolton. Bolton had JJ Okocha. If anyone remembers Okocha and Yuri Djorkaeff, French international, World Cup winner. Bolton had those two players. Southampton had Tissier, And as I said, these were some of the greats. If anyone remembers Benito Carboni, I think he played for Bradford and Sheffield Wednesday. Paolo Di Canio. I mean, there were some serious players playing in the league back then. But the funny thing is, because of GA, players like that would get criticised because these guys weren't getting mad GA, but these players were just pure footballers, and the quality that these guys had, these guys could have easily gone and played for one of the top teams in the league. But again, they were comfortable and rightfully so at their current clubs. But yeah, Matt Le Tissier, man, what a player he was. I remember Matt Le Tissier scoring a hat-trick for the England B team, I think on his debut. And there was calls for him to get called up for the senior England national team. But again, he was never going to get given time because it was all about Shearer and Sheringham for England back then. And the likes of Andy Cole, Ian Wright, Robbie Fowler. I mean, what a player Robbie Fowler was. Couldn't get game time, man. So, yeah, but Le Tissier, man, was a top player, if anyone remembers him. As Sham said, the good old days. Listen, some of the players back then, man, were ridiculous, And as I said, if they were in this era of football where football's just become about stats, these players wouldn't get rated, because, again, a lot of these players never had pace either, And a lot of these FIFA generation mutants, I would call them, the problem with them is that they wouldn't be picking a lot of these pure footballers because they ain't got pace. And again, man, it just shows you that how much the game has shifted, But it is what it is. And as Xabi said, football nowadays is starved of talent. So when you see it in sticks out like a sore thumb, of course, football now, I think is and how you can tell as well how football has regressed massively is that, and I've probably mentioned this before, if you look at the likes of when Ronaldinho was winning Balon d'Ors or Zidane's, there were so many other. I mean, Ronaldinho was the standout player, but even the era just before him, there were so many players that you could have said, is a Ballon d'Or contender. If you look at football right now, I'm looking at two players right now in Lamine Yamal and Pedri, who are at the top of their games, And if we're looking at Ballon d'Or contenders, I can't confidently tell you if there's anyone there that I would say, apart from Yamal and Pedri, that should definitely be in the conversation for winning Ballon d'Ors. And that just tells you everything in itself, I look at players like Kvaratskhelia, again, is a top player, and he could be in a conversation for his quality. The same with Rodrigo at Real Madrid, even though, his last few games, he hasn't been the same Rodrigo. But if you look at his quality, it's just evident, But players of that ilk, they're real quality players. But other than that, I can't really tell you if there's any standout players that should be considered for Ballon d'Or right now. And that just shows you how much football shifted, And as Xabi said, man, it does stick out like a sore thumb. Because even if you look at the Premier League, like the Premier League used to be littered with talent, and now if you used to ask anyone who's the best player in the league, the automatic choice will be Mo Salah because of numbers, But Mo Salah for me is not even top 5 best in the world on pure quality. He's not. But in terms of his output, people will put him there. They'll definitely say he's the best in the league. But for me, that just tells you everything. Because, as I said, in terms of quality, he's nowhere near it for me, But numbers, he'll be in the conversation for a lot of these people. Gamer says Kaka or Rivaldo. Two great players, man. I'm going to say Rivaldo, though. But Kaka was an absolute menace. Kaka at AC Milan with Crespo and and Inzaghi, I think, was it Inzaghi? I think when he was playing in the 10 behind Crespo and Inzaghi, I think it might have been. Or was it Shevchenko? Can't remember. But Kaká was an absolute problem, man. Like his change of pace was ridiculous. I think only Henry, from what I saw consistently, had that kind of change of pace. Big up, I am Titanium. But yeah, Kaká was an absolute problem, man. And in that national team, we had Ronaldinho, Kaká, R9, and I think Rivaldo might have just gone then. You know, Adriano was there as well. You know, it was ridiculous. But I think at times it was hard to fit all them in the same team. But yeah, what a player. But I'm going to say Rivaldo because Rivaldo was special, man. That left foot. I remember Rivaldo scoring the hat-trick against, I think it might have been Valencia, where his third goal was an overhead kick. And yeah, man, Barcelona just produced some, they get some of the best South American players coming to that club, man. And he was definitely one of them, you know. If anyone remembers Javier Saviola as well, playing for them as well, you know, played up top with Kluivert. Yeah, they've had some serious players, Barca. But Rivaldo for me. But again, Kaká was a top player, man. Yeah, again, man, the streets will never forget players. Kanchelskis and Matt Manamum. Yeah, again, in this era of football, man, they'll be one of the best players, you know, for sure. What's your opinion on Hulk? Yeah, Hulk, man. I mean, one of the hardest shots I've seen. I think the only hardest shot that I've seen in football is probably Adriano. But Hulk was ridiculous. Yeah, powerful. Obviously left-footed as well. Scored from distance. I think in terms of overall, I don't think he was great. But yeah, he was a handful, to be fair. But I think many predicted his career to be a lot better than it was. But for me, as I said, yeah, he was a very good player, Hulk, but not one of the greats that was produced for me. I think, yeah, in the Premier League, I think Hulk would do well because the Premier League's very high on physicality and he would fit right into that, you know. But in terms of being an absolute world beater, I don't think he was that. But the name that's been mentioned underneath that in Adriano, again, I've already spoken to Adriano. Yeah, what a player Adriano was, man. For me, Adriano was, you know, in terms of the best strikers to play the game, R9 for me. And I think Adriano could have replaced that. But again, if anyone knows Adriano's career, you know, he went off the rails after his dad passed away and got sunk into the drink and the favelas and the crime life. I think that's what I heard last time, man. But what a player, man. If anyone remembers the Football Managers, you know, when he was at Inter Milan, I used to be Man United all the time. And he'd be the first player that I'd buy, number 10 on his back, you know. And the guy just scored, like, I think he was hitting like 40 a season. Standard, easy. You know, best striker in the game for me. And again, man, yeah, what a player. And even for, I think I mentioned this the other day, for you ISS fans, International Superstar Soccer Pro or Pro Evo, him and Ibrahimovic together at Inter Milan, causing so much problem, man, in that team. You know, there'll be certain angles that you'll hit the shot, one left foot, one right foot, and it was going in every time, you know. But yeah, Adriano, man, top player. So Chelsea versus United predictions. Big up to Crawley Eagle. So I'm going to say, if United play a strong team, I'm still going to go with a Chelsea win. And I'm going to say 2-0 Chelsea. If United change their team and play a lot of the younger players, I'm going to say 3-0 Chelsea. I don't think United score. I don't think they score, personally, you know. So, yeah, I don't think United win the game either. So, yeah, I'm going to say Chelsea to win 2-0 if United play a strong team, or 3-0 if United play a weakened team. So, DXR says Hulk was Adama Traore before Adama. Yeah, listen, you're not wrong. In actual fact, it'd actually be interesting to see who's actually stronger. Adama Traore or Hulk, you know, because Hulk was a beast, man. He was just like Traore, but Yeah, it'd be actually interesting to see who is actually stronger between both them players. I think I'd probably say Adama, but I could be wrong there, you know. Um, listen, Ricardo Quaresma, you know, if anyone remembers Ricardo Quaresma, you know, ex-Barcelona, you know, and Quaresma was a better talent than Ronaldo was. The difference was Ronaldo applied himself, you know, and if anyone remembers, I remember watching Quaresma's first game for Portugal under 21s, and I believe Portugal won 4-3, and this is one for reluctant gamer. England under 21s had Shola Amiobi as a striker for them back then, and I think Amiobi got a hat trick for England under 21s, but Portugal beat them 4-3, I believe. And then that's the Portugal team that had a young Ronaldo in there, Quaresma, and if anyone remembers, Helder Postiga as the striker. That was their front three, Portugal. And Portugal beat England 4-3 with Amiobi getting a hat-trick for England, you know. But yeah, if anyone remembers Quaresma, man, he's Trevella's, you know, played for Besiktas, Porto, Barcelona. He was a mad talent, but again, partying lifestyle got the better of him. And this is why Ronaldo surpassed him, because Ronaldo's dedication to the game was just there. And as I said, man, unfortunately for Quaresma, because he was the better talent, Ronaldo just applied the work ethic, which is why he's become the player that he is, you know. Yeah, listen, R9, man, the best striker I've seen, without doubt, man. No doubting. So Titanium says, as much as it painted me, one of my favourite Kaká goals was the one he scored against United. Yep, I remember that at Old Trafford, Titanium. I remember that. He made Evra and Heinze, Gabriel Heinze, run into each other. It was embarrassing, you know. But Kaká had that ability. You know, one of his best goals, I can't remember who it was against, I think might have been Champions League, when he's run from the halfway line and scored a solo goal. I can't remember who it was against, though. But yeah, his change of pace and the power with it was just ridiculous. And again, he was someone that I played with a lot on Pro Evo. You know, his running power and his pace was just unmatchable in that game. You know, you give him the ball, and he was just too quick, too strong with the ball. So yeah, he was an absolute problem. Yeah. So Crawley Eagle. Sorry, I'll come back to that one. So yeah, Xavier says Diego Leon. To be fair, I haven't seen much of him, but you know, if he's got the he looks like he's got the physicality for the league. But again, we're gonna have to see how he adapts, how he develops in this team, because this club has a habit of, you know, of ruining players, and let's hope Leon comes in and he's nurtured in the right way. But it's still too early. I would like to see Diego Leon be given a loan in this league, whether he goes out into the Championship or whether he has a loan at a lower level club in the Premier League. But who knows, man? Pre-season, you know, if he's showing a lot of promise, then give him a chance. But as I said, I think yeah, I'm cautious on him at the moment, because this club has a habit of ruining players. So we have to wait and see. Crawley Eagle says Chelsea and United 1-1, Mount to score a screamer. I think that's wishful thinking, personally. You know, if that was to happen, I think you'd have to say that's not a bad result for United. But Chelsea will be coming there to go all out, I would say. So I think definitely Chelsea are going to be in the driving seat for this game, and I'd expect them to win, no doubt. But big up yourself, Crawley Eagle, anyway. So Xavier says, also, what is your thoughts on strikers? Even though we need one, I don't like any strikers that's available out there in world football. Yeah, big up, man. As I said loads of times, you know, the pool of strikers in world football now is at an all-time low, you know, and the problem is, you know, if we look at the strikers previously, you know, you've got Harry Kane and Lewandowski are the two elite strikers that are still playing in Europe. Obviously, Benzema, Luis Suarez, these guys are playing in either Saudi or America. and Sergio Aguero's obviously retired. So, that batch of strikers there, which were elite strikers, that period's gone. So then if we look at strikers now, you've got Erling Haaland and Isak that are in the league now. You're not getting them out of Newcastle or Man City. Then we look at John Duran, who I'm a massive fan of. John Duran's obviously in Saudi as well. Again, he's still young that he can come back to the league. So then we're looking at the likes of Victor Osimhen, Victor Gyökeres, Sesko, who I think shit. Jonathan David, Liam Delap, who I think is a good player, who people don't really rate. So we're looking at players like that are not really the level that United should be aspiring to go for, in my opinion. But again, beggars can't be choosers, And what I would say, Man United have a striker in Joshua Zirkzee, who at this moment in time, in terms of what strikers are out there, this player is getting overlooked because I look at Zirkzee, the qualities that he has, and regardless of what Amorim wants to play him in the 10, this guy's a number 9. So which is why I'm saying this formation just needs to be changed and play 4 at the back and restore Zirkzee to being a striker. So Man United have a striker, as I said, in Zirkzee that I'm happy with, and if they get another striker and get rid of Højlund, I'd also be happy with. So I've said Liam Delap in terms of what Liam Delap offers, in terms of his link play. He can play as a target man. He can run the channels. He's got a great touch, great technique, and his age as well. The fact that Wilcox has had him. So I'm happy with Liam Delap if he comes in with Joshua Zirkzee being restored to as a striker in a different system, But the likes of Osimhen isn't my preferred choice. But again, if United target Osimhen and he doesn't come in with ridiculous wages that he's been asking for, I'm happy with. I don't really rate Gyökeres. I think Gyökeres is massively overhyped. He is scoring goals in this Portuguese league. But for me, I'm not really rating him too much. Again, Sesko, I think shit. I don't rate him. So again, this is the poor strikers we're dealing with. Jonathan David, I don't really want either. So the pool of strikers is very minimal, which is why the fact that United have Joshua Zirkzee, there's no way Zirkzee should be let go, So I'm happy if United bring in either an Osimhen or a Delap with Zirkzee, and then you've got Cheeto there as a third choice. I'm happy with that. So to answer that question, yeah, for what's available right now, my ideal was John Duran, but John Duran's in Saudi. But for what's available now, to go with Zirkzee, I'd probably say, yeah, Delap or Osimhen, because, as I said, the pool of strikers just ain't there, But big up yourself. Oh, yeah, Deco. Deco was a top player for Barca, yeah. Hatem Ben Arfa, man, yeah, another top player, man. Hatem Ben Arfa, Adel Taarabt, they're streets, they're ballers that the streets will never forget, amongst many others as well. Yeah, Nile Ranger. Nile Ranger went to, I think a gamer will know about Nile Ranger, ex-Newcastle striker. Yeah, Nile Ranger was in jail last time I heard. I think he made I'm not sure if he made a comeback, but yeah, Nile Ranger was, I remember he was talked about highly. I think he was an England under-21 international as well. But yeah, his career went sideways, man, after he got put in jail. But yeah, he was decent, to be fair, at the time. And Moses Ashikodi, if anyone remembers Moses Ashikodi, I actually played against Moses Ashikodi when I was a youngster, actually. He used to be at Millwall. He played for England under-21s as well. So Gamer says, if R9 is number 1, then who's the number 2 best striker? Do you know what? That's tough. That's tough because there's loads of strikers. I can't actually say a number 2. I just know who's number 1, put it that way. But if I'm saying other strikers that can be comparable, in second place to R9, you've got the likes of Gabriel Batistuta. If anyone remembers Batistuta, man, he was ridiculous. You've got Adriano, who else is there? Shevchenko, Crespo. Obviously, the strikers I've mentioned, Suarez, Aguero, Lewandowski, Kane, Benzema. all these guys will be in the conversation, I'm saying, you know. I'm trying to think of others. There's surely others. Obviously, you got Henry, Samuel Eto'o. Yeah, there's loads of players that are in the reckoning. I've probably forgot names as well. So if I forgot names, guys, put them in the chat. So number two, I don't really know, man, because it's difficult to say. Again, a lot of players can be in the reckoning, you know. But I just know number one for me is R9. I've not seen a better striker than R9 in terms of, you know, what this guy was doing with a damaged knee. You know, people forget that. This guy played the majority of his career with problems with his knee. And some of the things he was doing was just was illegal, put it that way, you know. He had literally everything to his game. Pace, strength, skill, touch, technique, goal scoring, assisting. You know, the only surprise with R9, which many people probably don't even know, is that R9 never won a Champions League. You know, that's surprising for a player of that magnitude. But in terms of his international career, as I said, Copa Americas, World Cups, you know, and if anyone just watched R9, you know that this guy was ridiculous. Obviously, started his career at, as a youngster, I think at Cruzeiro, then to PSV, then to Barcelona, and then Inter Milan as well. And then I'm not sure if he went to AC or Real Madrid from there, but yeah, his list of clubs was a joke. But the quality that he showed for all them teams, yeah, number one for me. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I say it's the most important in terms of, you know, having a striker obviously to build your attacks is key, you know, but it just shows you, because I think what people probably don't realize as well is that the reason that there's a shortage of top strikers is because a lot of the players now that are coming through, from what I can see, are all wide players, because I think the likes of Neymar, like Neymar's kind of influenced a lot of players to be them sort of players that enjoy playing as an inside forward. Because you don't really get too many top-class strikers now, you know. I mean, the era's gone by before. There was so many strikers that you could say, yep, I'm having that player. But I think a lot of players now are coming through as, like, wide players, you know. So this is the problem with football as it is now. So this is why the likes of Erling Haaland and Isak, who for me are not the top echelon of players in terms of strikers, but they're like gold dust, because they're the two guys that at the moment you would say are scoring goals, you know, and this is why their price tags are high, because of what they're doing, you know, and there ain't too many strikers out there, you know, that you would say of that quality. But again, that doesn't mean that these guys are the two greatest strikers that have played the game or are up there, but it's just what we're dealing with right now. Xavier says, do you rate Guirassy, Gav? He's available for 70 million euros, apparently. Do you know what? That's a good question, because if I'm honest with you, United were actually linked to Guirassy. And at the time, I was like, because I was more or less thinking, you know, I want a younger striker. I want, you know, John Duran. I want someone of that ilk. So I was kind of like turning my nose up at Guirassy. But to be honest with you, to think that United spent 72 million on Højlund, and I think Guirassy is going to be, what, 29 or 30? To think that what he's done this season in terms of numbers-wise, and especially in the Champions League, to say, do I rate Guirassy, or would I take him at United? Again, beggars can't be choosers. You know, I think 70 million is a bit too much, if I'm honest. So in that sense, I would say no. But the fact that United spent 72 on Højlund and didn't see Guirassy as a viable option, again, that's another black mark against the club, because as I said, yeah, Guirassy, you know, for what he's provided for Dortmund, yeah, 100%, you know. Tarapt, yeah, listen, top player, man. Also, Ranger was at Blackpool. Okay. Yeah, listen, of course I remember that goal for Cisse. The outside Trivela shot. And again, Papis Cisse, because they had him and Demba Ba at Newcastle, and as I said, yeah, he was a very good striker. I think he come from Freiburg in Germany and then went to Newcastle. Senegalese international, but he was a very good player. Cisse. Saido Berahino. Yeah, listen, of course I remember Saido Berahino. Obviously, ex-West Brom. Again, another player that was tipped to have a good future, and obviously certain things didn't work out. Again, I'm not even sure what Berahino's doing now. But he was rated highly. I think after West Brom, I can't actually remember where he went. But yeah, obviously England under-21 international. But just like a lot of players, man, certain things happen and they fall off the wagon, you would say. Yeah, Gamer's asked. Gamer, I think you've asked this already. Benzema or Henry? I think you've asked this, but I'm gonna say, and again, Henry for me is the best striker to play in the Premier League. But in terms of style of player, I'm gonna say Karim Benzema, because Karim Benzema, again, if anyone remembers, he models his game on R9. R9 was his idol, and you can see in his early days, his game was very reminiscent of R9. As he went to Real Madrid and had to cater for Ronaldo, his game changed a bit. But I'm gonna say Benzema, but that's because of the style of player that Benzema was. But again, Henry, for me, and this is coming from someone that hates Arsenal. When I say hate Arsenal, it's a rivalry thing. But Henry should have won Balon d'Or a couple of times when he was at Arsenal, because he was clearly the best player in the world at his time. But yeah, best striker in the Premiership for me to play. Oh yeah, listen, Edin Dzeko, man, underrated. Very underrated striker, Edin Dzeko. Obviously coming from Wolfsburg to join Man City. But again, you look at the kind of strikers we're talking about. Edin Dzeko, Aguero in that era. And if you look at City now, they've got Erling Haaland that gets numbers, but Erling Haaland wasn't better than Aguero or Dzeko as a striker. But in terms of numbers, people just care about. People might tell you otherwise, but this is where football's gone now. But yeah, Dzeko was a top player, man. No doubting. Yeah, exactly. He's the only player to play for Milan, teams, Barca, and Madrid. Again, and that just shows you the quality of R9. To play for all those teams, all those top teams. Just shows you. And to say he's the only one to not get booed by rival fans, I think if you look at Ronaldinho, he's the only one I can remember that got clapped by rival fans in Real Madrid. So yeah, man, two great players. Yeah, Dzeko, top player, man. I think he is 40. Oh, he's at Fenerbahce. Okay, I didn't know that. He's there with Mourinho. And again, guys, there's been rumours of Sancho going to Fenerbahce. I mean, again, a load of nonsense, Sancho's what, 24? Why is he going to go Turkey? And again, Mourinho is not the manager for Sancho. So let's just put that in the bed. Put that in the bin, sorry. So yeah, R9 started at Cruzeiro, then moved to PSV Eindhoven. He later played for Barca and Inter Milan, and in his later years, he played at AC Milan and Real Madrid. Yeah, exactly. Gamer says Dzeko or Crouch. Dzeko for me. But Peter Crouch, as I said the other day, was a very good player. Yeah. But guys, listen up. Big up to everyone for coming in. As I said, if you haven't smashed that like button and you're still in here, make sure you do. Again, guys, just smashing that like button helps the channel to grow. It's just one click of that button. We're on 13 likes at the moment, which is decent. Okay. And as I said, if you haven't subscribed or if you haven't put that like button, make sure you do. Big up to all the mods. DXR, Reluctant Gamer, Sham. Yeah, big up yourselves, everyone, for coming on. Big up to Xedra again as well. Yeah, it was a good live, man. Big up yourselves. Again, you guys help keep the stream going as well with your questions, and again, that's what it's about, interacting, man, with the community. But yeah, guys, big up yourselves each and every time. And guys, let me know what you think. So do you think that, United is a must-win game or a must-not-lose game for United? Or do you think a draw is enough? Let me know what you think about Chelsea as well. Do you think Maresca deserves the sack if he doesn't get Chelsea into the Champions League places? And again, Europa League final coming up next Wednesday. I will be doing a live watch along. So as I said, if you guys want to join me for a live watch along, let me know and I can send you the link and we can watch the game together. But other than that, guys, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Obviously, Man United and Chelsea. So I'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow doing the match reaction. And as I said, it's a crucial game for both managers, that both managers, realistically, especially in Maresca's case, have to win. So, so as I said, we'll be there for that. And yeah, again, make sure your notifications are on and check to see when I go live. But I will be back tomorrow at 10. And again, hopefully you guys come back and get involved in the chat, guys. But big up yourselves each and every time. And I'm going to catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.